very honored. I know who Gary Webb is, and oh God, that was a great story, and that's the way I look at it as a dramatist, I suppose. I'm a little cold that way, but it was a sad story. And they made a movie, it died at the box office. It wasn't a happy, it was a pretty good movie, I think.
It was good.
It was with Jeremy Renner played Gary Webb, and it just shows you how movies like that go against the American image sometimes just don't make it. We first of all, they don't get made. It was very hard for those people to make that movie. It took many years, and it died at the box office. I've been there, and you can make a movie that's somehow is pro-American, and you put Tom Hanks in it, and you do pretty well, judging from the last Clint Eastwood film about the pilot. You know, that made a lot of money. Making a film about Edward Snowden was another lesson for me in disappointment. It's like making a film about Tom Drake. You know, hi Tom. It took enormous amount. It took 3 years actually, and the financing was on. When we finished all the work and had been talking to Ed and getting his side of the story, in fact it was his story, it was his point of view, it was not NSA in any way, they wouldn't cooperate. But Jim Bamford, many people helped us, and Ed approved it and so forth and so on. We couldn't get any financing out of America at first. We got everything to get started out of Germany and France and some other European countries. We made the movie, limited budget, and we got a small American distributor, and the film died here. We didn't want to distribute it here first. We wanted to distribute it in France and start there. They wouldn't let us because it was an American production, and they wanted to stick to America first. Well, those are the kind of problems you have. So this is very hard to get these movies made, very hard. And on television, almost forget it, because they can criticize inside a family, but it's very rare that they will step outside and go to a broader criticism of our country. And we need this. We are filled with ourselves, we are filled with arrogance. I'm even worse on this than Bob, because Bob is Bob is tempered, but it pisses me off something. The arrogance of us and the way we see the world, we so rarely are able to step outside ourselves and have any empathy with the other. And the other is what terrifies us. The other is always the other. There's always the creature from the Black Lagoon, the Red Planet. I grew up as you did in the 1950s. I was born in '46, so I still remember the first Cold War, and it was horrifying. I was telling someone outside who was younger than I that in 1950s, my father was social, and he had many liberal friends from the 1930s who were socialists, Democrats, sometimes even ex-communists or communists. They were in that society, the businessman, the gray flannel suit society, but there was no future for them. There was no future for them. They could not really say what they meant, because they would be noted, it would be noted they were a pinko or whatever you called it at that time, and then promotions would not come to them. They always were on the side, the lower income side of the equation. People who made money were the people who talked the American game, and that's the only way to get to the top. So it was a scary world, a conformist world, even more conformist than now, far more conformist. People did not differ. And Peter, I, all these people here, we suffered in that American school system for that. I didn't know history until I stopped in Untold History of the United States back in 2008. I really started to study American history and all the sources. And Peter Kuznick, my co-author, and his graduate students, they gave me a college education at the age of 60. Wow. I needed it. But Americans have no idea their history, no idea. It's really stunning. And we have taken this book everywhere, and this documentary, and we've made progress. Progressive people have supported this in reviews. Mainstream ignored it completely. So these documentaries, going back to Castro, have been a struggle, but they give me sometimes the best satisfaction I've ever had from my work. I worry about Bob very, very much. I'm a big supporter of his, but I'm scared for him. I always say, how can you say that and walk around your neighborhood? This is Arlington, Virginia. Maybe he's safer here than he would be somewhere else. We need Bob's voice. He writes beautifully, first of all, which is important for a journalist, and he's compelling and he tells a narrative. And what's better is he repeats it, because he has to repeat as a teacher for people to really start to memorize or remember. It's a sad narrative, and it's so pathetic that we have reached this place of lying to ourselves. The lies do get bigger and more dangerous. And now, particularly, I feel, perhaps because we're getting older, so I feel that it's gotten to proportions of an extreme exaggeration, where now our president is a Manchurian candidate for the Russians. The Russians are here, the Russians are in our schools, the Russians are in our businesses, are everywhere. Whatever went wrong is blamable on the Russians. This is what's really happened. That was somewhat the case, the hysteria of 1947, 8, 9, 50. It was a hysteria about not being strong enough. I don't know how to overcome that, because if you don't feel strong enough, you're never going to feel strong. You're never going to have the weaponry, you're never going to have the muscle to go down to the beach and take on the bully that's always waiting for you. Our fear is everywhere. It's in our souls. And as long as we're outwardly motivated to find an enemy, it'll be terrorism, it'll be Noriega, Hussein, Gaddafi, and tomorrow, in Syria, of course, Mr. Assad, and now it'll be the Russians are back. It doesn't end. I've never seen it so personal as the demonization of Mr. Putin. We didn't, in the old days, we never insulted Khrushchev's Russia or Chernenko's Russia. We never called it that. Now it's always Putin. There's a death here, a gay person is killed there, it's Putin's Russia. It's really crazy, and bad journalism on top of it. Very bad. So, you know, there's not that many young people here, but we gotta hope for some of these young people to pick up the slack and maybe start really investigating the news, because you can get lazy very easily in this country. There's a lot of consumerism. You could be happy and try to, you know, escape from the century. How long can we keep it up? I really don't know. I think our karma is due. You can't kill too many million people and get away with it forever. I'm surprised we got away with the Vietnam War the way we did. Yep. And the reason I think we did was because we fought very hard against that reputation. Mr. Reagan turned things around in his way, and then of course communism collapsed, so we always had a narrative to go. We ran out of a narrative from 91 to about 2001, but we certainly made up a lot of lies. The kids don't know this, so that to them this is a new enemy. I can tell you this from personal observation from being in Russia many times, is that the Russian people are not pushovers at all. They did fight to the bitter end on World War II. They gave their lives in enormous quantities, gave everything. They don't give up. You can't insult them and batter them like we have been doing, and expect them to concede things that we expect. And they won't do it. They will go to the end on this, and it'll be a big mistake for us. We will lose so much more than they do, because we're so much richer, and I don't understand why we can spend 10 more times on our military than they do, and still have this fear of them. It's a fear that never goes away. So, to the destruction of fear, enlightenment of the species, I salute you too for spreading the word. Thank you very much.